The Transition Assistance Program proudly celebrates 35 years of dedication and service. Throughout its journey, it has remained steadfast in its mission. From the start, team members in this program have embraced changes while consistently honoring and supporting our nation's heroes. Their relentless efforts have profoundly impacted the lives of many veterans and their families. In today's TAP Talk, we showcase individuals who are genuinely committed to the welfare of our soldiers and their families, investing their heart and soul into this essential mission. Please welcome Derek Walker, Bill McMullen, and Tish Anderson, and our host, Walter Hurd, our National Director.
Hey, good afternoon, and thank you so much for tuning in to episode number 15 of our podcast series, TAP Talks. Really excited today. We've got a great set of guests and a great topic. I'll tell you, each one of these gets better than the one before. I don't know what we're going to do next month. I don't know how it's going to be able to beat what we're talking about today, which is one of my favorite topics, history, specifically the history of TAP. Many of you don't know, but we are in the 35th year of the Army's Transition Assistance Program. So that means flashback 35 years ago when what was happening. Some of us were around at the time. I was in uniform at the time, and the Soviet Union had just collapsed. The wall between East and West Germany, and wall in Berlin was coming down, and our Army was getting much smaller. We were using and exercising the old phrase, to beat our sabers into plowsheds. So the Army leadership at that time decided that we need a program to help soldiers transition successfully from an Army that's this big to an Army that's only this big. So we stood up this thing called TAP. We called it ACAP for several years, and then really simplified it to good old-fashioned TAP. So I thought it would be appropriate to move to my historic venue here. This is the opposite side of my office, by the way. Behind me, I've got every shoulder sleeve insignia from World War II. Every corps, every army, every division, every separate brigade. The Army Department of Defense had about 15 million service members in uniform during World War II. Army had about 250,000 before the war, and then they grew exponentially to field this Army. And then shortly after the war, went back down to about 600,000, a very small Army force. So they went through a huge transition effort, although it was nothing as formal as we have today. It was simply sending soldiers home with a ticket, maybe the GI Bill, and off they were. And that worked successfully. In the greatest generation, many of our parents or maybe grandparents were successful in that area. So I want to start off with a little bit of history before I introduce some phenomenal guests today. We've got just outside my door a plaque of all the directors of the Army TAP program. And I will tell you, the first one, Miss Linda White, was the director for about a year and a half. Bonnie Patello was the second one. She was the director for about 2 years. And then Paula Davis was the third one. She was the director for about 6 years. James Hoffman, who I replaced, was a director for about 10 years. I've been here for about 15 years, and whoever comes next apparently has got to have it for like 25 or 30 years. So I don't know what's going on, but a lot of history, and history matters. Our guests today add up, all of us on this call, to 83 years of TAP experience. That's huge. That's an incredible gold mine of wealth. And I want to really get to know some of you three. I'm lucky to know you already, but I want our audience to get to know you. And by the way, we've got over the last 14 episodes, this is number 15, we've got several thousand people that watch this. So this is a great program. Really excited to host it. Really excited more so to have you guys as guests. So we're just going to start. I'll introduce my good friend First, we'll go kind of from, I won't say oldest to youngest. Let's say most experienced to least experienced, but none of you are are only experienced. So, Bill McMillan has been in TAP since TAP was born, 35 years. He's running it. He runs the TAP program. He's a transition services manager at the center of the universe. And Bill, you can tell us where that is here in a minute. So give me a quick hello, Bill, and what do you do?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hurd. I retired from the military in 1990 after 20 years. I got a job as a headhunter working for Management Recruiters International to understand how civilians were going about doing job search. From that position, I got hired by the Department of Labor to actually run the DOL workshops. And I did that until Fort Bragg finally decided to set up its Job Assistance Center, which was the civilian portion of the ACAP program. And I worked 10 years as a SIM. And then in 2001, I got hired to be the TSM.
So 20 years in uniform, 35 years basically, while not in uniform, but certainly helping those in uniform, helping the Army. I think that adds up to 55 years, Bill. Thank you very much. In a minute, I'm going to come back and ask you a couple of the big things you've learned over the last third of the century. So that's great. But first, let's go on to Tish Anderson. Tish, you've been around the TAP world for about 21 years. No small feat yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, sir. Yes, 21 years and 4 days today. So March. Yes, sir. So I started out in March of 2004 through October 2010, and then at Fort Eustis, Virginia. Then I moved to Texas in October 2011 and continued working for TAP here at Joint Base San Antonio, Fort St. Houston, and then eventually moved up to MCOM headquarters.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Derek, you're the youngster on the block, I guess. You've only been in TAC for a dozen years, which is still a long time. I mean, that's a major hunk of anybody's career. Tell us about that.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd, and the rest of the panel members. Derek Walker, currently living in Fort Stewart, Georgia. Like Mr. Hurd said, I've been part of the TAP in some form or capacity for about 12 years as a counselor, as a DOL facilitator, as a former TSS, a former TSM, as a DOL QC team member, and now back in my current position as a TSS here at Fort Stewart. I am also retired, Army 2013. However, asterisk, I did 13 years in the Marine Corps, so I am a Marine at heart, Mr. Hurd.
Well, I'll tell you what, we love you, and we're going to keep you on the show regardless of that. So I appreciate your confession, and it's all good. So, I just realized, so we've got experience here on the screen in the Department of Labor piece of TAP, certainly in the Army piece of TAP, in the contract piece of TAP, and in the federal employee piece of TAP. TAP is an interagency program, as you all know, listening and those on the screen. Our partners are Department of Labor, Veterans Administration, small business, predominantly administration, and we've got a lot of that represented here in the 83 years or so. So let's go back and I'm going to ask you, kind of summarize the first question I'll ask all of you, and that is looking back over your horizon of TAP experience. Give me a couple of big differences between kind of back then and now. So what are the big changes you've seen? And Bill, we'll start with you again as the senior member of the club here. What are a couple of big changes you've seen in 35 years? Obviously, a lot of them.
Well, sir, the first big change that I noticed was when we first started up the program, it was trying to get the soldiers to the program 90 days prior to separation, which was a very short amount of time. And it was really, our goal was to prepare them for separation. The big change that I noticed is we're not only preparing them for separation, but we're now connecting them with employers or with the schools. And that's a big change. And it used to be the case of, thank you for your service. We wish you the best of luck. More recent years, it's now we're trying to go beyond that and make sure they're going to be successful in their next career.
Yeah, that's a couple of big ones. Spread it out over time, and then the two mental tasks: prepare and connect. And if you're a no-go with one, then you fail the whole big picture, right? So that's a good thing to summarize, Bill, that you've learned. Good stuff. Okay, we may have some computer problems with him. We'll see. Tish, what about you? 21 years. What have you seen? Give me a couple of things that you've seen change over the last 2 decades.
Well, sir, as a contractor, the biggest changes that I've seen is the systems, ACAP 21 system to TAP 21 to now the new systems of record, T-SCARS. So those are the biggest things that I've seen changes in, as well as reporting systems, the reports that we provide to the commanders and the soldiers and to the TAP team. But those are the two biggest things: reports and the systems of records.
Yeah, those are big things too. To quote Sun Tzu, you got to know yourself to defeat the enemy, and part of that is being able to track who's doing what. Are we late? Are we early? Are we doing all of it? Are we just doing some of it?
Yes,
so that's an important thing to do. So Derek, what do you think? What have you seen over the last decade or so? Big change, your biggest change maybe you've seen?
I think that one of the significant changes is that how we've kind of tailored it to what the soldier needs in the process of assigning a separate tier. We used to be, it was like a one size fit all, but everybody's transition is different. Everybody has different goals, has different priorities. So to be able to kind of tailor the TAP program to meet each one of those individual needs, I think assigning those tiers has elevated the program to another level.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'll tell you, all three of these things, it's almost like you all were reading my notes, but you weren't. But if I were to look back, I think I would have come up with the same things. We've got prepare and connect. That's hugely important because we all know that you have to be connected, right? It doesn't matter if you know everything, but if I'm in a vacuum, it's irrelevant. And then the initial assessment is so important. And I will tell you, I believe we've got a lot of work to do on that assessment. There's huge potential for growth to make that even better because clearly, younger, maybe less experienced versus older, more experienced, saleable skill versus non-saleable skills. Those all require, they're different, right? So they have different needs and expectations. And then the whole concept of knowing yourself. Tish, you talked about our system of record, now T-SCARS, which is exponentially better than it has been, than the old system has been. And I will tell you, we're still working on it. There's a couple of loose ends out there that we're trying to tighten up and make that even better. You all certainly know that. Good stuff. So let me ask you this. If you stay for another, y'all are halfway done. So Derek, you got another 10 years and Tish, you got another 20 and Bill, you got 35 years, man. You're going to be 110 when you're done here. But that's not true. So let's say in the next, 5, 10, 15 years, what would you like to see? What do you think? Where do you think the program is going? And I'm going to go in reverse batting order this time, Derek. So get ready. So we talked about the importance of going earlier. We talked about the tiers. We talked about tracking. What do you think is what's the next big mountain for us to climb, Derek?
Well, with the emergence of technology, to be able to adapt our program, the TAP program, to match the current technologies, whether it be AI, Chat GPT. But personally, I would like to see the TAP program be unified across all the services.
Okay, say that again because I'm taking notes.
That the TAP program be unified across all the services to where we're all doing the same thing, giving the same information. And I know that we are supposed to, and most places are, but being on part of the DOL QC team, I've had the luxury of going to several different installations and all the services, and it seemed like every service installation is doing something just a little bit different. I think the success of the program as a whole would be best served if it was kind of unified all together and we were all kind of walking the same steps. So.
Okay, good point. I think AI type technology has got a big future for us. Who knows what that means? Frankly, I'm not there yet. But in the next 5 or 10 years, it's going to be big. I'm pretty sure of that. And then there are a lot of things we can learn from each other. The services can learn from each other. Services are inherently a little different. The Air Force has a almost 1-to-1 military job to civilian job ratio, right? Everything you do in the Air Force is a civilian job that's pretty similar. Not the case for machine gunners and cannoneers. So we need a little bit of flexibility, but certainly a lot of good ideas that we can steal from each other. That's a good point. Tish, so what do you think? Looking, I don't know, a decade or so into the future, where do you see this thing going?
Well, sir, I'm looking forward to just doing maybe an additional 4 years with TAP, but
No, you can't. No, you got at least 20 more years left in you.
But I agree with Mr. Walker with the technology, Power BI, and with T-SCARS and IPSE and all the systems talking, communicating with each other will hopefully be in the future. But yeah, assisting everyone that is involved with TAP, from HRC to MCOM to the centers to the commanders, just being able to communicate and being able to provide those Power BI reports alongside T-SCARS and IPSE.
Yeah, good stuff. I think you're right, and I want to set the conditions so we can move and maximize all those things you just mentioned. A lot of it centers around kind of your theme, maybe which is one of your pet peeves, Tish. I don't know, and that's just the ability to know yourself.
Yes, sir.
To see what we're doing, real simple, kind of idiot-proof. Bill, I know you're having technical problems, and I don't know if you can hear me or speak, but if you can, what do you think is kind of next on the horizon in the next decade or so? How copy? Okay. No copy. That's what we know. That's fine. So we're not going that far ahead this time. We still got to work on some of this technical stuff ourselves, which is fine. So let me ask you two a couple of questions. So what do you think across the TAP spectrum? We start with an assessment, then we have the initial counseling and the pre-separation counseling, and then we talk about budgets and resumes, and we have VA benefits, and we have some interview skills. What do you think's the most critical thing? What's the silver bullet there? What's the piece of gold that you think is most critical for soldiers? And it may be different. Maybe young soldiers need this and old soldiers need that. I don't know, but just jump out there, Tish, and I'll ask you first. What do you think's the big takeaway from TAP? If you only had one thing to tell us, what is it?
That TAP offers comprehensive support and resources that's vital to them for a smooth transition into the civilian life, and for them to truly take advantage of what TAP has to offer, like the hashtag "Go Early, Go Often." And it's the key, and that it empowers them to soldiers to pursue successful post-military careers.
Yeah, that's a good point. You've obviously been reading our talking points, so good for you. I would tell you, the best recruiter for the next generation is the former generation, right? Mm-hmm. Successful Army veterans, entrepreneurial, educational, you name it, are the best recruiters. And we're lucky, not lucky, but it's factual that Army veterans typically make more money than non-veterans, typically stay employed at the same job longer than non-veterans, own homes at almost twice the national average, graduate college at above the national average for non-veterans. So those are all good things that help the next generation look up to the old soldiers and say, hey, I want to be like that person. Mm-hmm. Bill, I see you're back online. That's good. I'll ask you a question that the other two talked about. And that is, you talked about some of the things you've seen over the last, in your case, 3.5 decades. What do you think the next horizon? What's the next big target, maybe in 5 or 10 years or something like that? But what's the next big thing that you'd like to see TAP either soldiers or the program or counselors or whatever focus on?
I think one of the biggest things that needs to really happen is the commanders realize that TAP is their program, and to get the support from the commanders to support their soldiers. I mean, we're still seeing service members showing up at 2, 3, 4 months prior to separation. And we always say that the career skills program is designed for the high risk soldiers, which are the younger soldiers, but they're not really getting a chance to participate because they come into the program too late.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, that's a great point. As I look across the Army, of course, I can see different installations and different commands, and it's painfully obvious to me that some commands really focus on TAP. And what that means is their soldiers go earlier, more soldiers finish the program, and more soldiers get a job, which is what most soldiers want to do. And I think it all boils down to, as you just said, like everything else in the Army, certainly, but leader focused, command influence, command support. And I agree, Bill. I would love for that to be kind of the next target on the horizon, as it were. So we'll get back, Derek, with you, and then Bill, you can answer the same question. And Derek, and that is all the things in TAP, you know, from the assessment to precept all the way to the capstone at the end. What do you think the most important, the key nugget element of TAP is for takeaway for most soldiers?
Yeah, and I'll kind of caveat of Ms. Tish there, going early and you know, going often. And I know that's the motto, but I think truly, if the soldiers were able to really do a personal assessment of their transition and start that process early, and also to involve their spouses, you know, because the spouses are transitioning as well. Mm-hmm. So I think the earlier they start that process, you know, throughout their military life cycle, I think that they would definitely be more prepared once they reach the ETS there.
Yeah, I tell you, that's a great little segue right there. We could have a whole TAP talk on spouse participation, because that's an incredible benefit. Not only is the soldier transitioning off of active duty and very probably moving from, you know, the confines of your fort, the little bubble of your fort, to somewhere else, but the soldier's taking their family too. And the fact that we offer the same counseling to spouses, resume support and budget stuff is really valuable. So I'll just throw off the top of my head, I'll come up with another question. How do we get, for all three of you, question for all three of you, how do we get spouses more involved in their soldiers' TAP? And I know sometimes they come and sit side by side with a soldier and listen to a class, which is great. That's what my wife did when I retired. But I think more of that would be better, because spouses are, you know, it's a team, right? Husband-wife team. And we want to support the whole team. So let me just ask all three of you off the cuff here. And Tish, I'm going to go way out of order, and I'm going to ask you first, just because I haven't asked you, but I gave you 5 seconds. So what do you think? What's the best way to get spouses more involved in TAP?
I would say maybe marketing that spouses are included, can be included. Of course, the spouse that's separating, transitioning, to also encourage their spouse to come with them and get the information themselves. Because from what I understand, I'm not married, but from what I understand, if spouses don't share with their spouses. So just reaching making sure that the spouse does speak with their spouse about their transitioning process, and that they're welcome to come with them to sit with
that's them. A good point. I tell my staff up here all the time, and anybody else who's willing to listen, or at least stand there and pretend like they're listening, we're in the information business. The whole TAP, it's all information, right? We're not making widgets. We don't have an assembly line. We disseminate information. And part of that, as you just identified, Tish, is to Stratcom to market that information to spouses. So that's a good recommendation. Bill, what are your thoughts on spouse involvement? How can we do that better and more often?
Well, currently, in many cases, we treat the spouse and not just here at Bragg, but overall, we don't bring the spouse in as a primary person. It's almost come along if you want to, but you don't really have to. We need to really show the spouses that they are as important as the military person for coming through the program. Many times I talk with some of our employers, and some of these employers are willing for the spouses to participate in the career skills program. Spouses don't know that unless we let them know it. I think we just need to show the spouses that we are as interested in helping them in the transition process as we are in helping the military person. And right now, it's not marketed that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's just as confusing or just as nervous for a spouse when Joe transitions out, the spouse and the whole family, frankly, the kids and everybody. That's a huge change. Yeah. Derek, what are your thoughts about better ways to get the spouse involved in the transition thinking?
I think including them in installation events like today, we actually have Hiring Our Heroes here doing a military spouse seminar and hiring event. So trying to get the information out there, get it marketed as well, so that the spouses know the importance of the TAP program. Even this morning, I was able to introduce myself and kind of hit that point that spouses are welcome with their service member when they're transitioning, and we encourage that. This way, everyone's getting the family dynamic is getting the right information, and it really helps. I truly think it helps the soldier to have his spouse there. Sometimes keep him in line, and sometimes make sure he's getting the right information to be able to. Because again, the success is a family's success.
Yeah, that's a great point. I learned long ago, you enlist the soldier, you re-enlist the family. Mm-hmm. And same thing here. I think we could think a successful transition soldier requires a successful transition family. You just can't ideally separate the two. So that's a great question. All right. So here's the deal. We've got enough time for just one or two more questions. So I'll preface it this way. Each of you is at about the halfway mark of your TAP career. Okay. So however many years I just listed, you got that many ahead of you. And I say that just tongue in cheek. I know Bill's only at the 60% mark of his long-term career, but just imagine. So you're getting, all of us, we're closer to the end than we are the beginning, probably, not to be too dark on it. But so what legacy each of you, and I'm going to go around the horn from youngest to oldest, not youngest, but most recent. What legacy do you want to leave behind when it comes to your time in the program, your time to helping soldiers get ready for the next chapter? And you've done it from different angles: Department of Labor, Department of the Army, civilian contract, installations, headquarters, you name it. Very diverse background with the three of you. So Derek, start with you. What's the legacy that you want to leave? The kind of one brass plaque on the wall or whatever for the next generation.
I think the legacy that I would like to leave is the fact that I may have truly helped someone with their transition. A lot of times the soldiers really don't know what they want to do. So I think being able to either inspire them or motivate them to think outside the box, or think ahead, or even just really think about their transition in the totality of it. So I think my legacy is that I was able to help or inspire a soldier or a family to achieve their goal, whether it be employment, whether it be education, or whether it be even own their own business. I would like to think that I helped a part in their success for their transition.
Well, that's a great legacy. It reminds me of one of my favorite sayings, which is, when you're young, you look like your parents. When you're old, you look like your decisions. So the legacy is basically saying, make good decisions. Yeah. That determines pretty much everything, right? All right, Tish. So what's your brass plaque on the wall? What's your legacy?
Well, sir, in my 21 years with TAP, my legacy is one of complete dedication, and I take pride in the positive changes that we have achieved together, from enhancing the program resources to fostering a culture of continuous improvement. But I hope that in my efforts in mentoring my colleagues and implementing sustainable practices will continue to drive the program's success long after my departure, though. And ultimately, I wish to be remembered as someone whose dedication and compassion and someone who's made a lasting positive impact on both the program and those who I had the privilege of working with.
Good stuff.
Yes.
That's great. All right, Bill, you get a big brass plaque, and you're not done with it yet. But what's your legacy? How do you what is it you want to leave? And I'm not running you three off. I promise you. Don't take this wrong. And I'm asking myself the same question. I think everybody should, just as a matter of principle, as a human. What is the legacy that we leave here on Earth? We're not going to talk about that, but what about the legacy here in the TAP program? Bill, what are your thoughts?
I think we need to continue to build a program so that it is not looked at as a 5-minute stop where they can check their separation paperwork, get that little block checked. But these individuals, the service members, they've served their country, and many times they've served it with honor. And TAP is a way that we can help them to empower themselves to select a great decision for their future. And really what we're really trying to do is reduce that stress of transition. And that stress many times in the past was created by just simply telling them, thank you for your service. We wish you the best of luck. TAP is a win-win for both the service member, for the employer, and for the military. And we need to make sure that word gets out and we continue to grow.
Well, that's great. I noticed one theme with all three of your legacies, and that is they were all focused somehow on setting the conditions for success for soldiers. None of you said my legacy is that, I'm going to have a statue of me outside the front door or something like that. Each of you said something about to move this process, this thing we call transition support, to move it and make it better so that soldiers can achieve their success more readily. So I tell you what, as suspected, this 30 minutes or so went by like that. Man, you guys and gals have got decades and decades of wisdom and experience, not just experience, but of success. And that's really what we want to replicate here across the program. And Bill, you may or may not remember this, but one of the first TAP centers I went to years ago, of course, was Fort Bragg, and Bill took me out to a meeting at McKellar's Lodge for lunch, but it had everybody on the installation that touched the transition process. It had the CIF people, it had the retirement people, it had the 214 people, it had the TAP people. And they all just sat around the table and talked about what common issues they were having, because if it affects one, it affects everybody else. And then the installation at that level was able to kind of streamline and make it better. And that's one little bitty piece of legacy that we try to replicate from a policy perspective to all the other installations. So for all of you listening, your installation ought to do that. And it's a big moneymaker. I will tell you, my legacy at this thing is I am simultaneously proud and humble to work with people like you, the three of you, and many more, and the extreme honor to continue to help soldiers give back to our society, because what America needs is the quality of humanity that the Army gives back to our society. That America needs that quality to get into society full force and help the schools and the churches and the businesses and the neighborhoods and the communities and all that stuff get bigger, better, and stronger. and Army veterans do that better than anybody. So that's something I'm happy to have my small fingerprint on, and you all certainly a larger fingerprint at the one-on-one level. So I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody's time today. I've had a great time talking with you. I want to talk with you some more. We're going to have another 2-hour discussion after this in the green room, maybe talk about stuff. But I appreciate your company. I appreciate everybody plugging in today, and we're going to record this, and it's just all good. So I'm excited. Thank you all very much. God bless each of you, and have a great Army Day.
Thank you, Mr. Hurt.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for joining us on Tap Talk and celebrating the incredible journey of our 35th anniversary. A special shout out goes to Bill, Derek, and Tish for being with us today, and most importantly for their dedicated efforts for the program and above all for our soldiers. Stay tuned for Tap Talk episode 16 in April. Thank you.